The first actual question is going to be about GMOs. And we're going to start the answers with Daniel Cunningham. And I will ask you all to please stick to the question. And this is the question. Hawaii County recently passed an ordinance banning growing of open field GMO crops except for those that are already established. Where should we go from here? Should we undo it? Should we leave it as it is? Or should we amend it? And if you think we should amend it, in what way? How would you amend it if you were sitting on the council?
Thank you again. The issue is with regard to GMOs and what are we going to do with regard to legislation. The solution is that gentleman had the sign on the door is hemp, free enterprise, will make GMOs obsolete. Nobody's going to want to have anything to do with it because it's not as profitable as hemp. The reason why GMOs are here is because people are being hogtied because they can't grow hemp. And this is why we have a problem reaction scenario going on here, and the whole thing is just a big facade to keep everybody preoccupied with the legislature and going here and there. And they don't understand the problem. The problem is freedom to grow hemp. It is the structural and energy matrix of every major civilization since the beginning of human existence until Rockefeller said, competition is a sin. We are poorly informed on the subject of hemp. GMOs will become a no more if hemp becomes a free enterprise opportunity. Pure and simple. The legislators are going to waste your time. It's up to you. There's an ordinance. It's as good as jury nullification to stop paying for the war on drugs, which is a war against the people, for whatever purpose. It's an illness, not a crime. It should never have been treated as such. Bless you.
Passion. Well, it's kind of interesting. Being 62, I was somewhere in 1975. I was at a conference. I was at a conference of the Southern California Women's Substance Abuse Task Force. But there was another conference that was going on at the same time at Asilomar. At Asilomar, they were talking about genetic engineering in 1975 and the ethics and morals of it. When you say GMO, you're actually talking about your DNA, the blueprint of every cell in your body, every cell in a plant, every cell in an animal. All has to do with the DNA. You cannot say genetic engineering unless you are engineering some DNA from some organism. In 1970, they discovered that they could cleave the DNA and make two sticky ends. And then they could stick anything they wanted on the ends of those to have what we call gene expression. Well, I have gene expression from 3 tomatoes that I bought 2.5 weeks ago because they have not started to rot. They are perfect as the day I bought them. Genetic engineering was for shelf life. I, as a candidate, say shelf life means no life. I want you to understand that if we accept GMO, then we are talking about what? We're talking about altering the genes. Consuming those things, there's no studies or anything that says that these genes won't attach to your genes or knock out some important gene in you so that you express some disease later, and they're all, just like nuclear activism. Some of us were totally against it. Fukushima kind of let us know. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing could be. So what would I do? Strict labeling. I would work hard for strict labeling. Sherman's Act, federal government, and I would make sure that food was included in it. Thank you very much.
Aloha. I just want to ask everyone here tonight to raise your hand to this question. How many of you grow your own food? Wow, that's an excellent answer. I was not expecting to see so many people raise their hands, quite frankly, because we are such a consumer-driven society. We go to the grocery store, we go to the farmers markets. That's our social affair, but that's also where we get our consumables for the most part. And when we look at GMO, to me, GMO is focused on exportation, okay? It's making that shelf life extend longer so that papaya looks better by the time it gets to the market, say in Japan. What we need to look at here on this island is that 90% of our food, our consumables are coming from somewhere else. We need to completely embrace farming, completely embrace gardening. How do we do that? Because we're all going to talk about buzzwords, sustainability, farming, agriculture tonight. But how do we do that? We encourage people to grow by, say, having mulchers at the transfer station, making it easier to get soil, making farmers markets more accessible, labeling. How many of you go to the farmers market, look at the vegetables and say, is this grown here? Is this GMO? And you rely on the answer from that vendor, and you hope that they're telling you the truth. But yes, I agree with my contender here. We need to focus on labeling. But where is that? That's at the federal level. So I would be lobbying my legislature. If we could pass some kind of ordinance that says all farmers markets need to sell locally produced food, okay? Let's encourage that. Let's try to go for organics. Let's completely embrace organic farming. And the GMO, the mutated gene, let's talk about what's being sprayed on our vegetables. Let's talk about the runoff. Let's talk about where we're recreating and what's in the water. What is our freshwater lens looking like? We have an unlined landfill and we've got spraying all over with the few vegetables and fruits that are grown here. So I would like to expand the conversation not just on the mutated gene, because you know what, when we talk about invasive species later, I'll make a joke about that, okay? Can you imagine, I'll just give you a sneak peek. Imagine mutating the genes on some of these invasive species. Let's talk about, mutating the Myconia so it doesn't choke out our myelite. Let's talk about the fire ants, mutating those genes, because some of the solutions are not working in other aspects. Okay, keep asking.
I was a farmer, and you need a lot of information. I was just a banana farmer, and we dealt with blackleaf streak. And it was just at the beginning when Bungee Top was started. Bungee started on Oahu, spread, and we're still having a problem. We have problems with pests of all kinds. The reason why they're doing GMOs on some of these plants, and they're trying to get away from spraying all these pesticides. They're not that good. They're trying to put in some kind of DNA to protect the plant. Now, when you talk about pot, they have their own little DNA and it protects them. Well, they're trying to get this for these plants, and that's one of the things that we need to support. We need to support our farmers, no matter if they're organic or not. We have a whole industry that if we just keep on putting them down, we're not going to have an industry. And if we don't have an industry, I encourage everybody to grow their own vegetables. We started doing chickens, ducks, goats, and everything. But, not everybody can do that. Labeling is a great thing to do, but it's at the federal level. There's people that aren't here because they're at home with their wives and kids, and they go shopping, excuse me, on Fridays or whenever, and they pick up their groceries. They read the label and they look at, okay, I can get this or I can get 2 of these for the same price. We've been taught this way. That's why there's little coupons. And if you're worried about a big organization coming in and taken over us with the food crop like Monsanto, you might want to just stop buying their products altogether. That's how you hurt a big company, you know. But on a level of taking our local farmers and squeezing them, you can't, you know, you're just putting somebody out of business, and when you put them out of business, you lose jobs. So, you know, you got to support them. You got to read up a little more. We've just got another thing that came in on Oahu, was the, what is it? It's the coconut rhino beetle. It's been around for 1 year, and nobody knew about it. It's at Hickam Air Force Base, and it came from Guam, is where they think. So, you know, we have to be prepared for anything that's coming, and, you know, to just get down on GMOs and not support some of the stuff that they're doing. You can, sorry, thank you.
So the question was if we support Bill 113, the open field GMO crops ban. I support it because it's an ordinance right now, but there's an injunction that's in the court against it. How would I, or the question, would I amend it? After careful consideration and listening to all the manao from all the people and looking at the science, the advantages, the disadvantages, I might amend it. How would I amend it? I would amend it in accordance with with the judgment of what people have given me as evidence to prove this is more advantageous to keep the ban alive or not. The one thing that concerns me about the GMO in terms of like for the papaya, they kept the papaya industry out. Okay, for the papaya growers, which we have a lot, especially here in Pahoa, it's important to them. It's their livelihoods. It's a lot of jobs. Me, I support families. You know, growing up in the plantation days, we've seen a lot of things come through. You know, oh, this can be good for us. That can be not good. I never trust until it's shown in front of me. And that's the way I make my decisions. Yeah. You know, if they would ever try and touch, just on a side, if they would ever try and transgenic mutate my taro, now that's another story. You know what I mean? Yeah. Being of the cocoa, you know, taro, don't touch that thing. Okay? But GMO, it's a really complicated subject. I know there's people that would say, hey, it saved our papaya industry. And it's hard to argue with that. You know? Now, there's also disadvantages. There's a lot of evidence coming up that people have shown, hey, GMO is not good for you. Right? So, in terms of GMO, you cannot just take it in a general sense, say, GMO bad. At least me, I'm not going to do that. Because I would look at it first. Every case, to me, it comes by a case-by-case basis. That's the way I operate.
Can't quite hear you, sir.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll try and talk a little bit louder. Okay? But in terms of amending the bill, I might. After careful consideration. Mahalo.
Aloha. Okay, GMO. For me, I listen good. And I listen to what people say, and I listen to the science that as yet needs to be done. Okay? That's the problem. When I worked at the tumor registry at Tripler, I reviewed thousands and thousands of biopsy reports and also clinical diagnosis of cancer. And many times, this is for the American Cancer Society, and many times we did not know how that person got that cancer, okay? Until things started to match up. We don't want that with the GMO here. We are not the guinea pigs. Okay? The other thing is, when I hear science, I remember growing up when cigarette smoke was controversy. Do you remember that? Okay? Does cigarette smoke cause cancer? Of course not, said Marble. Okay? Meanwhile, people were dying. So that's what I'm saying, is that the science had to catch up. So when somebody says to you now, there is no science at this time to prove that GMO is not healthy for you, then I ask you to consider this, that the science still has not been developed. Cloning is like DNA GMO. They have found out that cloning, you don't get the same results from the original source. So keeping that in mind, GMO, maybe down the road, years from now, when they've had studies sufficient enough, okay? But not now. So if this community came and said, you know, Franny, you're wrong. Okay, we want GMO. As hard as my heart would be, I would have to give in to the people's wish. But I tell you now, I stand against GMO, 100%.
GMO, it is one of the most complicated issues right now that's out there. And the first thing I want to tell you is to get educated. Educate yourself, because you're going to hear a lot of people telling you no, 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 and a lot of people are saying but. I stand no GMO. There's too much unknown with it still. They let it go too early, thinking that it was going to solve all these problems, and what we're finding now is it's causing more havoc than it's worth. And like my friends say here, there's not enough scientific evidence that the scientists have given us to show us that it actually is beneficial to our health. None. The Hawaiians years ago never used GMO, you know, and they used to walk across the island to give it to another family over there, you know. So I just want you to be educate yourself on it. There's so much information out there regarding it right now. It's not an issue that I am totally comfortable with yet, because I haven't had the opportunity to research it myself to a place where I can tell you absolutely not, absolutely. I would not amend the bill. I'm sorry. I would not amend it. I say get rid of it. Get rid of it now. Regardless if it's taro, if it's papaya, yes, it saved the papaya field. But what's happening to the papaya industry today? The farmers are actually coming to a realization themselves that they don't want to take part in it. So let's encourage one another to educate ourselves on these issues, as I have been encouraged to get educated on it myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.